Hi everyone, so I've been tagged by Ben or Gambit896 here on YouTube to do the pull list tag video that's been knocking around on the YouTube comic book community or YCC group page. So this is my attempt at that video. Now basically the idea of the video is to answer 5 questions regarding your monthly pull list of comics and then tag some more channels to do the same at the end. So beginning with the first question as to what is actually on your monthly pull list at the moment. Mine consists of, first of all, Animal Man by Jeff Lemire. He's been writing it since issue 1. It's actually ending, I believe, next month with issue 29, which is like a special farewell issue, because I believe Jeff Lemire is going to be going to write the Justice League, or is it the Justice League Dark? I can't quite remember. But this series has been absolutely fantastic. From beginning up until now, it's just such a great run, and I'll be honest, like, I hadn't read any Animal Man prior to picking up Jeff Lemire's run at the beginning of the New 52, and absolutely fell in love with it. Fell in love with the sort of different artists that have drawn this book over the last few months. It's so great. The character of Buddy Baker is very well realised in this, and I believe from what I hear from other people, Jeff Lemire takes a leaf out of Grant Morrison's book and his run on the character a while back. So Animal Man, it's a shame it's ending and it's been cancelled, but it is a great run, and I would recommend, if you've not read it, go and pick up the trades because it is really fantastic. The only other DC book that's on my pull list at the moment is Scott Snyder's Batman, another that I've been reading since issue 1, which I absolutely love. It really didn't take any sort of easing into this run on Batman as some do, because I believe with like Grant Morrison's run on Batman, you know, you sort of need to get your head around his tone and style, whereas Scott Snyder chucks you in and has you from the very beginning. I've actually reviewed a couple of arcs that he's done already on Batman in previous videos. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I will be reviewing the current issues that are coming out as well at the moment. But yeah, Scott Snyder's Batman is also on my pull list. Then we go to the first Marvel book that I'm reading, and that is Thor: God of Thunder by Jason Aaron. I've also read the first arc of this and reviewed it on YouTube. That was the God Butcher storyline, which was great and fantastic. I haven't read any of the Accursed yet. Well, actually no, I've read the first issue, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to wait until that's all published, binge read it, and then review that as well. So I'm not completely up to date with this, but again, I really like this book. I like the fact that Jason Aaron manages to find Thor's voice almost straight away. The plot device of having 3 Thors of different ages throughout the book is great, and it is a very clever way of showing how the character has developed over time, and another sort of interesting way to pay homage to what's come before. So Jason Aaron's great. The artwork in the first arc by Esad Ribic's absolutely spellbinding, some of the best comic book artwork being drawn at the moment, and apparently he's actually returning, I believe in issue 19, to the book. I think he was taking a bit of a break, a well-deserved one. So yeah, Thor: God of Thunder is definitely one of the strongest Marvel books out there at the moment. The other Marvel book that I've literally just added to the pull list because I've only just read issue 1, and I may even, dependent on whether or not you guys are interested to hear my thoughts fleshed out on it, I may review this on its own as well, but that is Charles Soule's new book, She-Hulk. This is issue 1. Which definitely takes a leaf out of Hawkeye's book, in as much as it's about She-Hulk, or Jennifer Walters, while she's not being a superhero, a member of the FF or anything, you know, when she's just sort of on her downtime and being an attorney. Now, this comic actually follows her sort of setting up her own attorney firm or lawyer firm, and it's very interesting. Now, Charles Soule, I think I'm pronouncing that right, he's actually an attorney in real life, so all the legal stuff in this is actually quite compelling. He manages to make it sort of realistic and accurate enough, but also witty enough to keep you interested. Manages to sort of toe that line and find that balance very well in this issue. The artwork, I know some people said that, you know, to begin with they're a little bit unsure about the artwork, but I fell in love with it almost straight away. Just enjoyed the sort of cartoony feel to it. It's a book that shows a lot of promise, and I do hope it stays as good in future issues, so that's just recently been added to the pull list. We then move on to the 2 Image books that I've got on my pull list at the moment. The first is Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chip Starsky, I believe it's pronounced. This basically follows the storyline, and I've spoken in previous videos about this series, but it follows the storyline of two people who, when they have sex, can stop time, and of course they decide to do what anybody would do and rob banks. It's a great story so far. It's only like 4 or 5 issues in at the moment. It shows a lot of promise. It's actually laugh out loud funny. Like, I was reading this in bed while my partner was sleeping next to me, and I think I may have woken her up laughing at this first issue when I read it the first time. Absolutely love the writing by Matt Fraction. Very witty, very funny. Again, he's the guy who writes Hawkeye. If you're wondering why Hawkeye's not on the list, it's that I'm collecting the trades. It's just such a great book. It's probably the best sort of comedy comic that's coming out at the moment, because I believe that's how they sort of categorise it. Matt Fraction said he wanted to do sort of comedy, so it's fantastic, really enjoy it. Then the final one is another Image book, and that's Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and drawn by Fiona Staples. Now, I only picked this up from like issue, I think, 13 onwards, because I bought the first 2 trades and read them, having been a fan of Brian K. Vaughan's previous work, The Why the Last Man, which I really enjoyed and thought was a great series. When I saw that he'd had another published, I thought, right, well, I'm going to have to get on that. I read the first 2 trades, absolutely fell in love with it, so added it to the pull list. This is issue 18, or chapter 18. I believe it's been on hiatus and it's due to come back very soon, but it is a great story about basically star-crossed lovers from 2 different races, races which hate each other and are constantly at war. Well, these 2 lovers get together, have a kid and go on the run. That's basically the long and short of it. It's a space opera in a way that it has, you know, different worlds, different alien characters, all this whimsical, wonderful stuff. But at the heart of it is a very realistically portrayed and realistically written relationship, which I think is actually quite relatable. So the dialogue is great as well. That's another thing that makes it relatable, and the artwork is absolutely amazing by Fiona Staples. So that's Saga, and again, one of the best books being published at the moment. So the next 2 questions on the pull list tag video are which are the strongest and which are the weakest books on your list. Now, it's really difficult with this to choose the strongest and weakest, but if we're going completely subjective, for me the strongest would have to be Batman, just because it's up to issue 28 and is still ongoing, is still fantastic, hasn't really wavered in quality whatsoever. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, even though they apparently hated each other to begin with, are now best friends, and Greg Capullo being the artist, and just churning out fantastic issue after fantastic issue every month. And the reason I say that this is the strongest is that they have published the most issues, basically, and it's the most consistent of the books so far on my pull list. So Batman for me is the strongest. The weakest is, and to be honest this is a bit unfair, but it's She-Hulk, only because we've only read 1 issue and we don't know, you know, whether or not the quality of this issue is going to be maintained. So that may be a bit of a sort of get out answer, but that's the truth. Now, as for the next 2 questions, what am I thinking about adding and what am I thinking about dropping? Well, I'm thinking about adding a comic which I ordered a couple of days ago, and I actually thought it would arrive in time for filming this video, but unfortunately it hasn't, and that is a book by Laramie Taylor called Voice in the Dark, which has been recommended to me by Ben Jones, or Gambit896, who tagged me to do this video. I get the impression it's like a bit of a sort of Dexter type story about a killer and having an inner monologue, and apparently though the thing that brought it to people's attention that I can gather from reading about it online is that the guy who writes and draws it, Laramie Taylor, suffers from a disease which I'm not going to attempt to pronounce from memory, but he has a disease that means that he cannot unfortunately use his feet or hands and has to write and draw it with his mouth. So I'm very interested to have a look at that book and have a read and see what it's like. So that's the book that I'm considering adding to the pull list. The book I'm considering dropping, now I've actually dropped a few over the last few weeks just because of my budget having to be tightened. I dropped Guardians of the Galaxy because, to be honest, as much as I like the characters and I like the dialogue in that book, the story was just sorely lacking, and it just, nothing that happened seemed to add up to anything. There was never any sort of payoff to any of the issues. shit just seemed to happen and not really mean anything. And maybe I'm completely wide of the mark, but I dropped that a couple of issues back. Another thing I dropped was Swamp Thing, which I dropped after Scott Snyder left. That was purely due to the fact I couldn't afford to keep buying it. So those are the two that I've sort of dropped. Superman Unchained I dropped because, again, that really didn't seem to go anywhere, and ultimately when you met the villain it was just like any other Superman comic. There's nothing special. So I dropped Superman Unchained. What I'm thinking about dropping out of these now, you may be surprised, is actually Saga. Now the reason being is, as much as I love the comic, is that should I get the trades? I don't know. I'm still thinking about this at the moment. Should I carry on getting the single issues, considering I've got the first 2 trades, or should I stop buying the single issues now, buy the next trade when it's out, and just carry on with the trades from there, even though it means waiting a few months in order to read the story? So that I'm mulling over, and may not end up dropping, but I haven't decided yet. So that's pretty much my answers to the questions that have been posed to me. So what I'm going to do is tag. I did write down who I was going to tag. I've looked through a couple of channels. First of all, I'm going to tag my good friend Sam, the Lucha Media Geek, who is just sort of recently getting back into the world of comics. I think he was a massive comic book nerd in like the mid-90s. He's just recently, over the last year or so, starting to get back into it. So I'm going to tag Sam. He may need to moderate the questions slightly to fit his purpose, because I know he collects trades more than anything. But any video from Sam is a good video. I'm going to link all these channels down below in the bollocks bar, so that if you want to go and subscribe, if you go and check them out and like what you see, you know, subscribe to them and stuff. The next 2 channels, I've had a look through the videos to see whether or not they've done the tag video before now, because I sort of lost track of who's done it already, and I don't think either of these channels have. Apologies if you already have, but I'd like to tag 2 Comic Nerds, a channel which, you know, I've subscribed to very recently and have been going back and watching all the videos. It's a great channel, and the guys on there are really cool. So if you're interested in comics, go check out 2 Comic Nerds, and also Rom's Comics. I had a look through your videos, couldn't see the tag videos, so I'm tagging you as well, sir. So those channels will be down below. Go and check them out if you like what you see, subscribe. You guys are the ones I tag. I look forward to seeing your answers. Feel free to leave comments, please rate, you know, comment, subscribe and stuff on this video. Really appreciate it as always, guys, and take it easy.